We've got
Good morning.
Well, howdy, folks. Welcome to the June edition of Cattle Trails Showcase. I'm Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate. Glad to be your host. The purpose of the Cattle Trails Showcase is to continually highlight the communities, historical elements, museums, and other attractions along the historic cattle trails. Lonnie Steben, who's with us, is our showcase chair. The Cattle Trails Showcase was initiated 4 years ago by the International Chisholm Trail Association. Now is a project of the Historic Cattle Trails Consortium, which seeks to promote all the historic cattle trails: Chisholm Trail, Western Trail, Great Western Trail, Shawnee, and the Goodnight Loving Trails. Folks, Texas is where the cattle trails began. And so we're headed to Texas in 2025, not just today, but physically later this year. The first National Cattle Trails Conference will be put on by these trails working together, and it'll be in Cleburne, Texas on October 24 and 25. So mark your calendars. There will be some pre-conference activities and a lot of other things going on in Texas, Cleburne and Fort Worth area. So watch for more information about all of that. One of those pre-conference activities involves the Texas Trail of Fame in the Fort Worth Stockyards National Historic District. And many thanks to Bob Saul for helping arrange our presenter today. In the Stockyards, bronze inlaid markers have been placed in the sidewalk for visitors to see. And it's a hoot. I thoroughly enjoy going to Stockyards, seeing the cattle drive, walking the sidewalk, and just looking at the names of the people on those bronze stars in the sidewalks. One of my favorite stories is I was walking along one day, I looked down and I saw Doug Harmon's name on the star. And I say, I knew him. I just met with him. Steve Myers arranged for me and Doug to get together. Doug was one of the founders of our Chisholm Trail Association. So I got such a charge out of that to look down and see Doug's name. And it's so fun to see all the other names. Jack Edmondson is a historian and the longest serving member of the board of the Texas Trail of Fame. He's also a reenactor, author of the book Alamo Story, which I hope he'll share with us. Jack, please tell us about the Texas Trail of Fame.
Well, thank you, sir. Really, the Texas Trail of Fame was an offshoot of the Red Stigall Cowboy Gathering. I don't know if all of you are familiar with Red Stigall. He's, quite a colorful character. He began the Cowboy Gathering in 1991. It's held annually in the Stockyards in late October. It includes a ranch rodeo, a chuck wagon cook-off, and especially a lot of cowboy music and poetry, which is appropriate because Red was a very talented singer and songwriter. In 2006, the state of Texas designated him as the Poet Laureate of Texas. It was in 1997 that the Texas Trail of Fame began. There are 4 people we credit with its formation: Alan Short, Hub Baker, Holt Hickman, and Floyd Wade. I may have met Alan once, but I don't remember. And he seems to have left Fort Worth. Hub Baker was a rancher out of Brenham, Texas, who came to Fort Worth, helped start Billy Bob's, ended up working as the manager general of the Coliseum, our Cowtown Coliseum, for many years. Holt Hickman he made a lot of money in automobile accessories, but he became a major investor in the Stockyards and owned most of what was the historic actual Stockyards grounds. Floyd Wade was a Well, I remember he had a wonderful art gallery in the Stockyards station. Uh, the story I heard was that Alan, or maybe it was Floyd, had been out to LA, had seen their Hollywood Walk of Fame and thought we ought to do that here in Fort Worth in the Stockyards. And so they decided that they would put bronze markers, roughly the size of a manhole cover, but they are, according to the information, configured like a lawman's badge. To me, they're a Texas Ranger badge. And they would have the name of the inductee and within a 2 or 3 words, what he is noted for, what his contribution is. Um, um, when people ask me who we induct, I say it is those who have made a significant historical or cultural contribution to Texas history. But at some point, the Trail of Fame came up with a mission statement, which I will read to you. It is verbose, and I like mine better. The Texas Trail of Fame, located in the Fort Worth Stockyards National Historic District in Fort Worth, Texas, was established to honor those individuals, organizations, groups, and animals who have made a significant contribution to our heritage, traditions, set of values, and dedications to the preservation and perpetuation of the Western way of life. Anyway, they were getting started back in 97. Doug Harmon, who you know, Ron, a close friend of mine, he and George Westby joined on, and there were others that created the board. One major difference that we would have compared to Hollywood, if you are a celebrity and are honored to have your marker in the Hollywood Hall of Fame, you have to pay for it. We decided we would pay for the bronze markers. I know they run about $1,000 each, probably a little bit less then, but we wanted to pay for that. The organization was not well-heeled, shall I say. We had some money and we struggled along for a while. I'm saying we, but I was not part of it at this time. Along with the board, they established an advisory board. And the idea is people could send in nominees. The advisory board would look at those, sort through to get a certain number, the main board would go through it and then send names to the advisory board. They would go through it, send back to us, and we would end up with the list of inductees for that year. Originally, and for many years, the induction ceremony was held on the Saturday morning of the Reds to Gull gathering. It was held on the lawn of the Exchange building. Chuck wagons were cooking all around, but we had stairs set up, a stage put on the steps of the Exchange building. And Doug Harmon, who was our primary historian at that time, usually wrote and presented the names of the inductees. Another thing we did at that time, the Superior Livestock Auction Company, a video auction company, was headquartered in the Exchange building. And we made an arrangement with them that we could induct, or we could arrange to get the inductees into a little room and we could interview them and have a 15 to 20-minute interview with them that the livestock exchange would, the livestock auction, Superior Livestock, would, they would record that. I'm trying to remember when I joined. It was sometime in the early 2000s that I became a member, but I don't remember which year. And I just kind of helped out. Once Doug was sick, and they asked me to read off the inductees. And I was allowed to do some of the interviews in the Superior Livestock video rooms. Hub Baker, fabulous character. He really loved our history. He was president for a number of years, and since he was the general manager of the Coliseum, we would have our meetings in the conference room, which was upstairs. And then at some point, Hub retired from his position as president of the of the Texas Trail of Fame. And George Westby took it over. Now, George was in charge of most of the parking in the stockyards in the early days. But he also had become the pastor of our cowboy church, which also was established in conjunction with Reds de Gaulle. And we met in a room in the stockyards. Let's see, what was that called? I tell you, when you get to be my age, you will have these senior moments.
Not the Exchange building, then.
Stockyard Station is where we met. And that went on for some years. In 2019, well, let me back off just a minute, because I do want to state that in the beginning, they weren't exactly sure what they were doing, how they were going to do this. The first our first presentation was 1997, and we had 16 inductees, and almost all of them were names that most people would recognize. J. Frank Dobie, Roy Rogers, Dale Evans, Will Rogers, Bill Pickett, Quanah Parker. Charles Goodnight, John Oliver Loving, and Bose Eichert. Burke Burnett. But the next year, 98, we dropped down to 12 inductees. In 99, we were up to 19 inductees, which was our largest number we ever did. Later, it settled to a dozen, and now we mostly do 9 or 10 a year. In 2019, Bob and Johnny, his wife, Terry, had joined our board, and they persuaded us to try to do an evening banquet. Bob Terry was very familiar with a lot of the old cowboy movie stars or TV stars. He'd gone to a lot of Western festivals, and a lot of these people were getting old and starting to pass off, and Bob wanted to bring these people out as while he could. But he thought that the banquet held at Billy Bob's would generate a new audience and probably a lot of money for us. We had been trying to have golf tournaments prior to that. The golf tournaments were a lot of trouble and not always very successful in raising money. So we went out on a limb. It was an expensive proposition, but we did a Thursday night banquet. And here during the Red Stegall, among those we inducted that year were James Arness, James Drury, and John Smith, all stage or TV stars. From the historical standpoint, we had Matthew Caldwell and the Chief Black Kettle and a few others, Marty Robbins. You know, we would do historical people, we would do celebrities, musicians, artists, writers, anybody who had made a significant contribution. It worked, actually. It went off pretty well. There were, you know, a few minor glitches, but everybody was quite happy. We were all looking forward to the next year to trying it again. But the following year, 2020, was COVID. And that was the only year we did not have Red Stegall or the Texas Trail of Fame. During that time, George Westby moved to Mississippi. He was having health issues, heart issues, and we were all concerned about him. Brad Gandy became the new president of our organization. We were meeting in the office of the parking facility that George had been co-owner of. The back room was actually a party facility, and it served very well for our meetings. Unfortunately, the bar was not active while we were there, but we continued on. Also, during this time, we had lost almost all of the original members of our group. Many of them had passed away. Hub Baker was still around, and he was very happy to step in and help us make the transition with the new membership of our board, younger people, but filled with enthusiasm. And by God, they started doing tremendous work. I was really impressed with the new group that came on. We did return to the banquet in 2021. And it went very well. Let me see. That year, we inducted George, our former president, who had done so much to help the Stockyards through his cowboy church, and as president of the Trail of Fame, and he'd been on the board for a number of other things. He and Hub both. We also began another fundraising proposition. In abandoning the old golf tournament, we began raffling a Henry rifle. And the rifle raffle became very successful. We were selling tickets for $10, or you could buy 10 tickets for $100. Our special bonus there. But we made a lot of money off of that, and it became an annual feature. We were doing very well financially, which we had never had been before. The banquet, however, began to overshadow the original induction ceremony on Saturdays. We continued that, but it was now labeled the unveiling ceremony. At the banquet, we would have a prominent MC. Barry Corbin stepped in a few times. We had some other prominent people doing it. For the unveiling ceremony on Saturdays, that usually fell to me, but I would frequently invite Bob Terry to help me out. And we have continued to plod along. So that gives you a history pretty much up to the present. So now, if you would like to run that PowerPoint, we could do that, or you can go to the website. I encourage people to pull up our website. It is new and under construction, but we've come a long ways with it, and we have great plans. Just having a bronze marker in the sidewalk puts a name down there. We say it's history at your feet, but it doesn't tell anybody really who they are. If you go in the Exchange building, straight in, there's a hallway there, and on the walls, you will see by year pictures of each of the inductees for that year up to the present. But we didn't have a way to effectively bring the history of these people out. And so that's what we're hoping for the website to really do. You can go to our website if you want to know who Black Cattle was, or William Barrett Travis. You can see their bronze marker, you can see their picture in the Exchange building, or you can go on our website and read something about him. So we are just trying to introduce and educate and maybe entertain a little bit. So what can I do for you now?
Jack, thanks for a terrific background and overview. As I say, I love walking the Stockyard sidewalks and looking at those names, and I love going into the Exchange building and seeing the pictures. I mean, as a Western history buff, it's so fun to see those faces and names that we recognize and those that I'm not familiar with. So I really appreciate too the fact that the website will have more background, more information about each one of these. I put in the chat a link to the trailofFame.org website, and I encourage folks to go there. The 2025 inductees. Oh, I was just looking at this list.
We can talk about that briefly.
Yeah, please.
I want to make a statement here, which may be controversial. I may not be on the Trail of Fame much longer after I say this, but because of the banquet and because it has become the centerpiece of our operation, it is expensive, and we charge $150 for a chair at the banquet. We have good food. Billy Bob's has great food, and we try to make it very entertaining. But the board is concerned about bringing inductees in who might bring in tables, seats, people who will spend money there. And I have become a little concerned because we don't have quite as many of the historical figures coming forth, because people are afraid they may not bring many people in. And this is a prime illustration is Captain John T. Lytle, who I had tried to get on the board, get inducted in the last year or so, And this year, just absolutely insisted we get him on the list. And we did. And I'm pleased to report that he is bringing in a number of seats, which people were very skeptical about. But let me go over the list for this year. Elaine Agatha, a banker, a cowgirl. Nenny Baird founded Mrs. Baird's Bread. And all those of us in Fort Worth know about her early history and what she endured to get that bread company going. We have brought on Dan Blocker this year, Hoss from Bonanza, beloved actor who died much too early. We have done a lot of actors over the years. It surprised me that Dan Blocker won out over Gary Cooper, who still has not been inducted. And I thought Coop certainly deserves to be on our list. Lane Frost, Walt Garrison, former Secretary of the U.S. Department of Interior, Deborah Ann Hayland, Captain Lytle, Bobby Norris, a philanthropist, farm and ranch realtor, big on autism. Sancho was the last of the original herd of longhorns that were brought out when we started the Fort Worth cattle drives in '99. And another historical figure, Samuel Walker, Texas Ranger. That is the list for this year. I've lost you.
Jack, do many of the performers, are they there in person?
Well, we try, of course, to get people, and sometimes we do, and sometimes we get representatives. Of course, James Arness, when we inducted him, had passed, but his wife was there, and quite a following. We were pleased with that. We weren't sure if we would get Taylor Sheridan when we inducted him a few years ago, because he's very busy. But Mr. Sheridan did show up, and of course, he's quite well known and popular now. But we're not always successful in getting the original people. Sometimes they are just very busy, or in the case of some, their health is not as good as we would like it to be, and they just can't travel right now.
And obviously, these are not all Texans, but they're people who've had some impact on Western culture and therefore relates to Texas.
Some confusion about that because we were christened the Texas Trail of Fame, but it's the West. It is a history of the West. We're just based here in Texas, but no, we are not locked into only Texas characters.
Other questions? I think the timing is good in one sense for Captain Lytle, in that with the Cattle Trails Conference happening on October 24 and 25, let's see, is that the right date? The folks who we hope that are coming in to honor Captain Lytle from the Great Western Trail would also could also participate in our conference in addition.
It surprises me because the folks there at the Chisholm Trail Outdoor Museum are almost always at our Thursday night banquet. And they may be this year. I don't know how busy they're going to be getting ready for you all.
They're going to be there, Jack.
You going to be there?
I'm going to be there.
That's sure. A bad.
And also, just a note, you guys are going to be printing a map of all of the stars and where you can see them in the sidewalks. That's not currently available in an easy form, but they're they're not all on one street. So
No.
you have to kind of know where they are. A lot of questions in the stockyards. When I talk with some of the guides and some of the people around in the businesses and so on, they're always having questions. People will walk in and say, "Where is such and such star?" And so they've begun to, the people who work in the stockyards begin to kind of know that, but also sometimes they need interpreters because it doesn't always come in English. Sometimes it's in German or French or whatever, Japanese. And Stockyards is the top draw now in Texas for tourism. In fact, as I understand it, I was told yesterday that it draws more people than the Eiffel Tower in France.
Wait a minute, Pilgrim. You're saying more people come to the stockyards than go to the Alamo? We may have words about that.
Thank you.
More than
Thank you, Duke. Thank you, Duke. Duke Wayne making a special appearance on Cattle Trails Showcase today. I was looking at that list, and Doug Harmon was inducted in 2018. So, he did a lot of work getting it started, and it was really appropriate that he'd be recognized in later years. Then I know he wasn't one of the first. He didn't set this up to aggrandize himself at all.
no.
But very fitting.
Doug was a city manager, but then he was head of the Visitors and Convention Bureau,
Right.
And did that for many years. But he's always had a great love for history. When we would have big festivals in the stockyards or elsewhere, he would come in a dragoon outfit celebrating the dragoons that established Fort Worth. But he had written, I don't know how many papers, articles about elements of history. And he'd set up, he and I were both on the Tarrant County Historical Commission, and he would set up fabulous displays, traveling displays, and they were just wonderful. But Doug's health has deteriorated of late. He doesn't get out much. And we were concerned about him back then, and we kind of rushed to get him on there. He's still with us, I'm pleased to say.
We're actually hoping to have him for an hour or two down at our conference on Saturday.
He donated a collection to that museum.
That's right.
And so I hope he can make it down there.
Yeah. And his house is still full of memorabilia. I was in a couple of months ago for lunch with him, and you stumble through a lot of it because you're stumbling over saddles and things that came off of the trail, by the way. More than 50 saddles he'd collected over the years that actually went up the trail. And a lot of other memorabilia, not just cowboy, but also Native American. A wonderful collector.
Wonderful collector, and we look forward to seeing that at the conference. And much of that collection, the part that's at the museum in Cleburne, we're so excited to be in Cleburne, be in Texas for this event. Other questions?
Cleburne is about a half hour south of Fort Worth. We have the Chisholm Trail Parkway as a toll road that runs right down there, and it hits 67, I think. But
that's correct.
You just turn and you're a very short distance from the museum, a little ways outside of town, but it's a wonderful museum. I spent a lot of time there, and I really, really recommend it. I think you'll have a great time, especially if Doug's there to talk about that collection he's donated.
We're excited about that. So your advisory committee screens the nominees, is that right? And then makes some recommendations to the board?
We get the nominees, which a lot of them are people just go on our website and nominate. That's easy to do. You can go on our website and just nominate somebody. You need to tell us why. you're nominating someone. But anyway, we get lots of nominations, and we will pare that down to I don't know what the number is. We send that off to the advisory board to get their influence, and get a number back from that, and then we scale it down to the final number for that year. We try to do 9 a year, sometimes 10 these days. Of course, when they first started this, like I said, all the names were fairly familiar. Now, not so much. A lot of people have never heard of Captain Lytle, but my gosh, what a significant character. I mean, he just, there weren't any movies about him. But yes, people like that they're the ones that we really need to recognize for their historical contributions.
Well, it's great fun. I love the mix of the entertainers, the prominent personalities, the historical figures, and even, I mean, some of the tribes or the buffalo. I mean, and the animals.
Longhorns. We have nominated or inducted, as of this year, 2 specific Longhorns, as well as the breed itself, because I mean the Longhorn certainly saved the Texas economy after that unpleasantness we had with the folks up north.
And horses. I saw a few horses at least some rodeo horses on the list.
They have inducted at least one of the Fort Worth herd horses. I rode that horse. I worked with a herd for a while. I hated that horse, and I hope we don't induct him. But anyway, yeah.
There's a question in the chat about the host hotel that has to do with the conference, and we're still working on some of the conference details. I don't know, Bob, any quick word you can share about?
We have 3 hotels that have agreed to give us discounts right at the museum. And we will be sending out that list probably on Wednesday, along with a lot of other information. The local committee has worked hard to get it done. We still don't have all of the speakers and all of that, but we've got several of them. So they're getting that ready to go out. And the website, by the way, is up. Great. The historiccattletrails.com. You can't buy tickets yet to the conference, but you can register, and then we will hopefully the ticket sales or the conference fee will be up by this coming Monday. So that's the goal at this point. But you can go to the website now and historiccattletrails.com, and you can.
There's the link in the chat. So you can check that out and make sure you save the date for now and be watching for more info to come.
Bob,
when you get all that ready for me to send out, just send it to me.
We'll do it.
And I'll get that all out to everybody.
Great. Very good.
Are the hotels in Cleburne?
Yes, they are in Cleburne.
Very close to the museum.
They're right close to the museum. The museum is actually 4 miles from when you exit the parkway. I've been down many times. Of course, I live right at the northern end of the parkway, so I get on the parkway. There's no stoplight between here and Cleburne. And I get down there. Now, it's 1 lane some places, and if you got a lot of times the trucks are going down on the trailway, and it is kind of slow sometimes, but that's okay. You shouldn't be driving that fast anyway. But you get off, and it's 4 miles around, and it's right there. The museum is right on the highway, and it's actually right at one of the lakes where the cattle watered. So it is a major stop on the Chisholm, and it's an outdoor museum. So several buildings. They have a Native American building. They have the Doug Harmon building, which contains most of the memorabilia from Doug, and then we will be meeting in the Old Gringo Pavilion, which they're currently enlarging it to seat about 300. Right now it seats about 200, but and we are also planning a concert on Friday night, I think it is, and the fee will include breakfast and lunch every day. The 2 days, the breakfast, we laughed the other day in the committee. What do we call this breakfast? We're not serving a chuck wagon breakfast. It's a continental breakfast, we decided. So, but we are serving a chuck wagon lunch. So the chuck wagons will be there. Also, each trail will have a table that they can use to give away their information and so on. And we have vendor spots. There'll be a big circus tent next door to the pavilion where the vendors will be. And so it'll be a lot of people go through that museum every week. So it is a busy place. Carrie Murdoch, who's the head of it, does a wonderful job down there.
Well, we're excited. We're very excited to be there, and excited that's the very same time as the Texas Trail of Fame inductions. How about a virtual round of applause for Jack for a really interesting and terrific presentation today, Jack? We so appreciate you being with us, and keep up your good work there at the Texas Trail of Fame.
Ron,
As long as I can.
this is Lonnie. Ron,
Sure,
you
go ahead. Go ahead, Lonnie.
There was a couple of things that Jack had told me when we first kind of visited on the phone. One was about a February event, Jack, that you're involved with in your portrayals. Do you want to mention that just a minute about?
Well, I have a very good friend, Jeff Bearden, who lives in Vernon on the Great Western Trail. And since '86, he and I have done living history at the Alamo in March. We did this for many years. We became essentially the Alamo's. I was Colonel Bowie and Jeff was Colonel Crockett. And we did that for more than a decade, maybe a couple, until we got to the point we both felt we were a little long in the tooth and wide in the girth for that role. But the Alamo does a first Saturday of each month. It is a living history celebration, commemoration of something going on, usually, of course, Alamo related. But because the rodeo moves from Fort Worth to San Antonio that first weekend in February, the first weekend is dedicated to the West. And Jeff and I got together. We both had an interest in the cattle trails. Jeff living on the Western Trail, and I'm on the Chisholm Trail, if you're not a purist and you'll let Texas be on the Chisholm Trail. And we did a joint program together talking about the history of the cattle drives. And we have continued doing that every year since we retired our coonskin caps and Bowie knives. The year of COVID, we actually went down there and they videotaped our program so they could show it on their webpage at the Alamo, since we weren't going to be able to be there. But yeah, if you come down to the Alamo that first Saturday in February, if it's not icy, we'll probably be there and doing our program on the cattle drives.
And what about the book Alamo Story? What can you tell us about that? Where's that available?
I wrote this book. It was originally written in 2000, and then a revised edition came out in 2022. A mere 500 pages, but we do have pen and ink illustrations that you can color if you don't like reading. But it has been well received. I think that the Alamo Society voted it the #1 book on the Alamo history. If you are interested in Texas history, I encourage you to pick it up. There are a lot of reviews on the original edition, and I upgraded it, added new information, even corrected a few things when I did the revised edition. So feel free to go on Amazon, see what people have said. And if you like Texas history, pick it up.
Very good. Thanks again, Jack. We appreciate your
Thank you.
great work with the Texas Trail of Fame and your presentation today.
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
It's wonderful. We look forward to being there in person. Let's see, Lonnie, you're still working on the program for July, but I think we have some exciting programs yet to come. So stay tuned for that. Couple of announcements. Friday, July 11 would be our next Cattle Trails Showcase, second Friday of each month. So join us for that. Next month is the National Day of the Cowboy. So July 26th is the National Day of the Cowboy. Watch for your local celebrations. We encourage you to participate in that. And then watch for more info about the National Cattle Trails Conference in Cleburne on October 24-25. Until next time, this is Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate, saying thanks for taking time to join us in this place, and come on back next month for our Cattle Trails Showcase. Happy trails, everyone.
Thank you all, and thank you, Jack.